Sky 11 has an all-too-clear view of the damage we're being faced with this morning. Scenes of destruction, scenes produced by a storm that became a killer, a storm that's turned parts of the metro into a state of emergency. Good morning and welcome to a special edition of News 11, The Morning After.
We're continuing our around-the-clock coverage of the summer superstorm that has ravaged the area, with massive flooding and mudslides, and at times non-stop torrential rains and tornadoes.
Meteorologist Sally Patrick will be along in a few minutes with what actually happened and what we can expect. But first, here is the latest. Just minutes ago, the governor's office called the situation a state of emergency. The storm that started last night went well into this morning, and early estimates are that at least some 300 homes have been damaged, some quite severely. The state's Commissioner of Public Safety explained the action.
Emergency declaration is to enable the state to work with local units of government to assess the damage, to find out the amount of the loss, and to determine whether or not the loss is of sufficient magnitude to warrant a recommendation to the President for a disaster declaration, which in turn would allow the federal government to come in with the appropriate assistance to the counties.
On Monday, a team of federal disaster officials will come in and begin to assess the damage statewide. That's expected to take about a week. Once they make that assessment, they'll decide whether people in the area will qualify for federal disaster aid. Motorists all over the metro area are probably agreeing with the disaster assessment because that's what many roads are this morning. The going, when you could get going, is slow. And the advice from the State Patrol is use caution and be patient.
And the storm took a deadly toll with 2 people reported killed. A 27-year-old man was killed when his car was swept into 9 Mile Creek in Hopkins. Attempts were made to rescue the man by throwing him a line, but the efforts were in vain as the currents were just too strong.
He grabbed onto a tree for a little while and evidently couldn't hang on and floated further down the creek. And saw him come up a couple of times, but that was about it.
Authorities are not releasing the victim's name until his relatives have been notified. And the torrential rains turned deadly overnight for one South Minneapolis man. Police say that he was in the basement of his home at 1866 East 39th Street when a wall collapsed and water from heavy rains rushed in. And this morning, with the help of daylight, crews had the grim job of finding the victim of this vicious storm.
Water had to first be pumped out of the Burnside South Minneapolis basement before crews could do what they came here to do, find 78-year-old Harold Burnside's body. He had been trapped here since late last night after a wall collapsed and water from heavy rains rushed into the basement. While police looked for any sign of the elderly man's body, concerned neighbors watched from next door. And by the time Harold Burnside's body had been recovered, his wife Fern was waiting across the street and being comforted by friends.
I just said to all these ladies, it must be somebody else. It's so hard to realize that it's one of your own. My voice isn't the same as it should be, but last night my tongue was stiff. I couldn't hardly talk. But I think the worst is to come.
For the meantime, Fern will be staying with her son Ron, who was by her side throughout this ordeal. The Burnsides built this home in 1941, and even after a tragedy like this one, Fern says it would be unthinkable to move out. Carolyn Marinan, News 11, South Minneapolis.
That accident happened around 11 last night, but rescue efforts had to be delayed because of the dangerous conditions. And a breaking story. Some houses in Eden Prairie are in jeopardy this midday because of flood-related problems.
News 11 Steve Carroll joins us live from there right now. Steve?
All right, Amy and John, we're at the scene of a dramatic and potentially dangerous situation here in Eden Prairie. A house located on the sandy bluff, you see it behind me, is on the verge of falling into a storm-created landslide. As we go to the videotape for the past few hours, we've been watching bits and pieces of the hill slide down slowly but surely. Now, the owner of the house is watching his house disappear. He's a contractor who is building the house for his family. Now, there's 2 other problems that the landslide that officials are concerned about. The landslide started when a sewage pump house collapsed, causing the landslide. It ruptured a main Twin Cities sewage line, and right now that's spilling about 57,000 gallons an hour of raw sewage into the Minnesota River Valley. And there's also one other problem here. There's a Williams pipeline carrying fuel. It's located in the area. The line has been shut off. It is still charged, but at this time, John and Amy, it is not a concern, at least at this point.
Steve, is that the only house threatened at this point?
Yeah, Amy, you can see the house. It looks like it's just on the verge of falling down, but it's the only house in the area at this point that is in any jeopardy of falling into the landslide.
All right, thank you very much, Steve Carroll. The flooding caused by the record rainfall was easily visible this morning from Sky 11. In pictures taken between 6 and 7 a.m., you can see some of the problems. In New Hope, along Boone Avenue, the water made roads impassable and surrounded homes, making the entire area look like a lake. And in Hopkins, a flat plain along Highway 18 was flooded. Traffic was able to move slowly along this section, while some other sections of 18 around Hopkins were blocked. Cleanup is underway in tornado-ravaged Maple Grove this midday, one of the first communities to get hit by the summer superstorm.
News 11's Dennis Stoffer has a report.
These look like antiques, huh?
They are. There's her mother.
Dave and Sue Fisher are busy trying to salvage what little the storm left behind. They had just enough warning to save themselves and their family.
After it come through, it come kind of a low roar, and the house went up and come back down a little bit, and I told the wife, I says, I could hear the rain hitting the floor, and I says, we got to go out because we got to get out of here. I says, but there's nothing left upstairs. I know it.
We have 3 kids, and we're all okay, so...
This morning, police lines are up, and the surrounding area has been cordoned off while homeowners and insurance adjusters add up the damage.
Dennis Stoffer reporting from Maple Grove. Hundreds of people were stranded overnight at the Southdale Shopping Mall in Edina. The mall suffered extensive damage during the storm. Water gushed down staircases covering the ground floor and basement. In some spots, the water was as much as 3 inches deep. Ceilings gave way in some stores, damaging clothing and other merchandise. The mall snack shop served free coffee while shoppers and employees waited for the rainfall to subside.
We've called this the superstorm. This really has been a storm that happens once every 100 years or so.
Once in a lifetime.
Yeah.
It's like nothing I've ever seen. And come here, knock on wood. It's like nothing I'll ever see again.
You had to do that,
I
didn't you?
had to. I'm sorry. Rainfall amounts, though, just incredible, and we'll be showing you those a little later on. First of all, let's show you a very interesting statistic. Yesterday, as you went to work, safe and secure, that we were below normal in precipitation. A precipitation deficit yesterday of 4.21 inches. Today, as you wake up, we now have a surplus, 5.69 inches of extra rain. And you don't really need me to tell you that. If you looked out your window last night, you could tell we had an incredible surplus. Rivers and lakes where there shouldn't be any this morning. Let's take a look. We started out yesterday evening with severe weather. Many reports, confirmed and unconfirmed, of tornadoes. We do know of a tornado touching down in the Flying Cloud area. Also, Long Lake, Minnesota, a couple in northern sections of Hennepin County. Golf ball-sized hail in Blaine. Numerous trees and power lines down with a tornado touching down in St. Paul. Let's take a look at the radar. This was last night. A band of thunderstorms just hung on to the cities for about 7 hours, producing this incredible rain. On the satellite picture, this is what it looked like. Bright white clouds all over southeastern Minnesota. As we go to the satellite picture and show you, this was last night. This is what tornadic thunderstorms look like on the satellite. This morning, they have moved off to the southeast. We are seeing some sunshine finally as things begin to dry up. We are watching a batch of thunderstorms in South Dakota. Yes, we do have thunderstorms in the forecast that'll slide over by tonight. Scattered showers and thunderstorms, nothing like last night. Here's our forecast for today. Clearing skies, less humid, high of 85 degrees. And then for tonight, 65 degrees with those scattered showers and thunderstorms. But again, they won't be nearly as heavy as it was. Coming up for Saturday, showers and thunderstorms, 84. And a little later on, we will be showing you some rainfall amounts you won't believe.
We seem to be slipping into a rainy pattern, though. For so long, we have no rain at all.
Now too much.
All right. Thanks, Sally. Our coverage of the morning after will continue in a moment. We'll have the latest on what roads are open and which ones just don't exist right now.
And we'll have some advice for homeowners and car owners looking for help with insurance claims.
And there's a human side to all this. We'll see how people are coping with this summer superstorm. Stay with us.
The weather is hot, time to cool off with a salad from McDonald's today. Get an Anchor food, keep before you leftovers too. Hot or cold, serve them up either way.
Right now, when you buy any one of McDonald's 4 fresh entree salads, you'll get a microwave food keeper from Anchor Hocking for just 69 cents. They go from freezer to microwave or conventional oven.
It's a good time. That's what I do for the great taste
already?
Oh, hi. We came to pick up our new glasses.
Now that's glasses right. Susan had an eye exam earlier, then picked out frames.
And you know, there's thousands of them.
Then we went shopping.
It was just an hour ago.
Took her longer to pick out a sweater than it did for the eye works to make her glasses.
Oh,
They can make glasses in an hour. Just saves time for other things.
Saves us money, too.
I wasn't there that long.
The eye works. Glasses fast, glasses right. Call for an exam or bring in your prescription.
You want to get Pepsi?
Sounds good.
It's been quite a 24 hours. Rarely is the Twin Cities International Airport ever shut down, much less in summer, but then a lot has been rare about our storm. The torrential rains were powerful enough to knock out the airport's runway lights, and that forced the closing of Twin Cities International, which in turn stranded scores and scores of passengers.
I was trying to fly out of here from here back to Portland, Oregon, and sitting on the plane, the pilot decides to tell us that we might be in here for about a half-an-hour hold because of a major storm moving into the area. And 3 hours later, we were able to get off the plane, and I don't know how many hours later it is. I might possibly be able to leave it after spending a night on the wonderful, nice, soft, comfortable floors of the Minneapolis airport.
Well, runways are back in operation this morning and schedules are returning to normal, but expect some continued delays. Best thing, call ahead, check with the airlines by all means.
The morning after the storm sent many residents of an apartment complex in West St. Paul back home to recover their belongings.
They were evacuated when floodwaters threatened their building. Alan Costantini joins us now from our St. Paul Bureau for the latest. Alan?
Yes, John and Amy, a West St. Paul police officer told me this is the worst storm that he's ever seen, and everyone here is grateful that there were apparently no serious injuries in this part of the metro area. 80 residents of the Delaware 110 apartment complex are back home this morning after an emergency evacuation at the height of the storm. Water was flooding the ground floor and underground garage of the building.
We had to leave for safety's sake because there were gas fumes from the cars that were in each end in the garages. You could see the gas fumes above the water.
Officer Chuck Anderson of the West St. Paul Police helped residents to safety with a guideline.
Current was so bad coming down this way, it was just like a river, and you had to hang on the rope because if you let go, you'd go right with the current.
Although the 54 units were not damaged, the lobby and swimming pool areas were under 2 to 3 feet of water, and there were fears that the pool area roof might collapse. Well, that building, of course, did not collapse, and city inspectors now tell us that the building is sound and the residents are able to go to their apartments if they wish to, John and Amy.
Alan, when those people were evacuated, where did they go?
They went to Henry Sibley High School, which is directly across Delaware Avenue from them, and the Red Cross was there with cots and with food and blankets and whatnot, and they were very grateful for that. The Red Cross did a great job for those people last night.
Okay. Thanks, Alan.
Getting around has been complicated by unexpected difficulties, like closed gas stations just when you needed help. Or fuel, some motors found service stations without power and without the ability to help. So the only solution was to wait for the waters to recede and the electricity to be restored. Getting around this noon hour is still tricky. There are still big puddles on the crosstowns. Penn and 494 is a lake. There are still cars underwater at 100 and 494. And in Bloomington at Poplar Bridge Road and 91st, waiting is the thing.
In fact, driving conditions all around the Twin Cities are not yet back to normal and won't be for some time.
In the newsroom with an update on the roads and other storm-related problems, Gil Amundsen. Gil?
John and Amy, all road repair crews have been out all night. They are still out this noon, and here we have the latest from Metro traffic. Now open I-94, Highway 12. 494 is open, except at Penn. There it is still, as you just saw, underwater. 169 is open, but you'll find some mud by Moon Valley. 41 is open, but with no shoulders near Jonathan. Still underwater this noon, 100 at 29th, 100 near Duluth, 55 at Ottawa, and 35W at 98 is still closed. As of an hour ago, Northern States Power Company reported 11,000 customers without power in Minneapolis and suburbs, 5,000 in St. Paul and suburbs. At the peak of the storm last night, about 84,000 homes were without power, and most of them in Minneapolis. Northwestern Bell does not have an accurate number of customers without service, but there are enough for repair crews to work all this coming weekend. Information service at 411 will be slow for a while. The Directory Assistance Building is flooded. A couple of reminders from NSP: don't try to clear fallen branches from power lines, and don't use electrical devices in flooded basements. John and Amy?
Gil, with all the repair work facing crews, anybody mention the costs it's going to face?
Well, not a dollar figure, John, but they are looking for emergency funds right now, and there goes the money that was saved from that snowless winter last winter.
That's just what I was thinking, too. All right, thanks, Gil.
Thanks, Gil. Right now, we're going to go live to Maple Grove, where Dennis Stauffer is standing by, and he says cleanup from the tornado is still underway. Dennis?
John, Amy, this is a very busy place this morning. We have a house right behind me which belongs to the Fisher family, which we showed you just a little while ago. They have been cleaning up all morning here, as have many other families. About 7 homes were destroyed by the tornado that swept through here last night. We have up to 100 other homes that were damaged, many of them very severely, according to police. And the damage estimates, the best we can get so far, are anywhere from $2 to $4 million just here in Maple Grove alone. The good news is no one was injured. Now, Max is up in Sky 11 over my head somewhere right now with a bird's eye view of the situation, and we'll go to him for a moment, and he has a much broader view of things than I do.
Yeah, Dennis, as you can see, we just arrived over the area here. We tried to get here this morning but couldn't because of low clouds, and it looks bad from up here. This was really a devastating storm. As you can see, I see many of the cleanup crews here are at work, and it's actually a lot worse than I anticipated. Yeah, back to you, Dennis.
Obviously, from those pictures, you can tell that things are very serious. But again, the good news is that no one was hurt. John, Amy?
Dennis, in some ways, because of the devastation of the storm itself, metro-wide area, we've forgotten exactly how extensive the tornado damage is right where you are.
Yeah, obviously from the picture, you can see that this is a big cleanup that a lot of people are going to be working on for days to come.
All right, Dennis Stauffer reporting live. Well, for those who wanted to just forget the storm this morning and take in a round of golf, newly created water hazards were the order of the day. Fairways across the metro area look more like ponds, and the conditions forced many of the golf courses to close to prevent serious damage to both the courses and the scorecards. That would be tough out there.
That would be a real challenge today. Still coming up on our special midday edition of The Morning After, we'll find out if all the rain helped or hurt farmers.
And some important insurance information for those who suffer damage. We'll be right back with that.
Looks can be deceiving, but when it comes to dairy foods, there's an easy way to tell you're not getting some cardboard imitation. Always look for the real seal, the sign of genuine dairy foods. Look for the seal and know it's real.
Cheese, glorious cheese.
There are lots of good, healthy reasons to eat real cheese, but some people eat it just for the fun of it.
Glorious cheese.
I'm 80 years old, and I love Kellogg's Frosted Flakes.
Brave adults are coming forward to challenge the notion that Frosted Flakes is just a kid's cereal.
I eat them, I love them, and I don't care who knows.
With that extra crunch and milk, that frosting just right, they have a taste adults can love every bit as much as kids.
Go ahead, Shirley. You can do it.
I love them, thank you.
What more can you say? Frosted Flakes have the taste adults have grown to love. They're great.
If you got a problem, don't care what it is.
A homeowner wanted to cut his energy costs, so he had NSP make a house call. NSP's consultant was glad to help with ideas that trimmed energy costs more than 20%.
It would sure do me good to do you good. I could help.
To use use energy smarter in your home, in your business, call your NSP Energy Consultant. We can help.
Welcome back to the morning after, our midday edition of coverage of the summer superstorm. Whenever we have a major storm like this, insurance becomes an important concern.
Boy, it sure does. And as people begin the process of cleaning up, there are always lots of insurance questions. So with that in mind, we have with us Hugh Strawn of the Minnesota Insurance Information Center. Hugh, the basic question, I guess, to begin with is coverages vary, policies vary, but what about flood-damaged homes?
Okay, flood-damaged homes will not have coverage under homeowners' insurance policies. They do not cover flooding. They don't cover backup sewers. If they're in a floodplain and they have national flood insurance and the federal government declares that the water came in from a rising body of water as opposed to groundwater runoff, they will have flood coverages.
Cars?
Cars will be covered under the comprehensive portion of the policy, which is an optional purchase on the car insurance. So if they've bought that, they have flood coverage.
Tornado victims?
Tornado victims will have coverage under the homeowner's insurance and renter's insurance under windstorm damages.
It's important to document the losses, though, correct?
Absolutely, especially with the people who do not have any insurance coverage for the flood damage. Keep comprehensive records on every dime that was spent because you're going to have to take a casualty loss on your taxes.
What about responsibility for securing homes that are wide open now because of flood or tornado damage?
It's the responsibility of the homeowner, of course, to secure the home, and if you have an insurance policy that covers tornado damage, you will be reimbursed for those damages. In the flood-damaged areas, if you're reducing the potential for other damage to the house or vandalism or theft of property, something like that, it very likely would be a compensable item under your homeowner's insurance policy. That's kind of a gray area, but I'd recommend they should apply for it if they, in fact, have had to secure the house and have borne extra expenses to protect the rest of the property.
All right,
from
well,
damage.
our thanks to you. Hugh Strawn of the Minnesota Insurance Information Center.
And if you need some help sorting out all these problems, you can call the Insurance Information Center at 926-0699. And I'm sure a lot of people will use that.
Oh, they sure will.
The morning after the storm, farmers are checking their rain gauges and are looking in their fields for crop damage.
Farm editor Les Heat is in the newsroom now to tell us the latest on that.
Amy and John, most of the heavy rain and wind hit the metro area. And the farmers and county agents I talked to this morning said they saw very little crop damage, but a few said they got the most rain they'd seen in a long time. In western Hennepin County, for example, around Maple Plain, 6 inches of rain were reported, but not enough wind to do widespread crop damage. Also in Hennepin County, around Rogers, one farmer I spoke to said he got about 2 inches of rain, but his crops still look damaged from some hail that hit earlier this week. In Carver County, rainfall varied from an inch in some areas to about 6 inches near Chanhassen. There was not enough wind to blow crops over, but certainly enough rain to stop fieldwork. And moving to the northeast side of the metro area, a farmer in Lindstrom reported only an inch of rain, but although it's in Chisago County cut and ready to combine, the rain was just one more delay in the middle of the harvest. In Washington County, the Extension Service reports that rain on farms was as much as 5 inches near Cottage Grove. Again, no wind damage, but that rain will, of course, delay fieldwork. Moving over to Wisconsin, in St. Croix County, about an inch and a half of rain fell near Glenwood City, and there were reports of high wind and some damaged buildings earlier yesterday near New Richmond. Again, Amy and John, the rainfall varied tremendously across the area and even from town to town, but most of the farms in the metro area missed the roughest weather.
All righty. Thank you, Les. Still coming up on our special midday edition on the morning after, how some folks in Minnetonka are picking up the pieces this morning.
And meteorologist Sally Patrick gives us the outlook for the rest of today. Stay with us. Sally Patrick with us again. And Sally, I was one of the people who was almost stranded last night. I've never seen rain like that.
It's just unbelievable amounts of rain. And you kept thinking it was going to end when you saw the heavy rain. You think, well, it'll let up now.
And it never did.
Even the lightning kept on.
Oh, the lightning was like somebody was flicking on and off the light for several hours. Just incredible. Storm total, as you may have heard already, 10 inches at the airport. That occurred in just 7 hours. 7 hours. We had 10 inches of rain. That's 2 months' worth of rain that we had all last night, and that's why we now have a surplus. Take a look at some video of a thunderstorm that did produce a tornado yesterday afternoon during the late evening hours. And what I want to point out here is the wall cloud
That's the dark cloud you see hanging down in the middle of your picture. This thunderstorm and this wall cloud did produce a tornado just a couple minutes after the video you see here. However, we don't have the video of the funnel cloud. I did want to talk about that wall cloud, and what is it? A wall cloud is somewhat of a V shape, a chopped off V shape or a cone shape that hangs down from the main thunderstorm cloud. It's a little batch of clouds that hangs down. You want to be able to recognize that because that's where a funnel cloud and tornado will form in a thunderstorm if that's going to happen. We had many reports of funnel clouds, tornadoes. That was enough last night, but then a line of thunderstorms just sat over the cities, stopped there, turned the faucet on full, and we had these kind of rainfall amounts. 1 foot of rain in the Lake Minnetonka area. Eden Prairie, 11 inches of rain. St. Anthony Village, 8 inches of rain. Over in St. Paul, just under 8 inches of rain. Incredible rainfall amounts, all coming in a very short time last night, and that was the flooding problem. The only good thing, and I mean the only good thing about these thunderstorms and all of this rain, was that it brought lake levels up quite quickly, and they were very low for quite a while. Take a look at the forecast for today. We will see clearing skies. That's good news. Less humid. High of 85 degrees. There are more thunderstorms on tap for tonight. They won't be quite as heavy, though. 65 degrees and a few more thunderstorms coming in on Saturday, but again, not as heavy. The heavy rain is gone, though, this morning. The crowds are cheering. By the way, now you know what it's like to be in a hurricane in the southeast. These rainfall amounts are what you get in a strong hurricane.
Just what we needed.
Just what you wanted to know.
Just what Minnesota wanted to have. Okay, thanks, Sally. Well, Sally mentioned 11 inches in Eden Prairie. There's an ongoing drama going on in Eden Prairie right now.
It's pretty incredible, too, because a house could collapse as a result. And Steve Carroll has been covering that story, and he's standing by live right now to give us an update. Steve?
All right, Amy and John, very little has changed here in this very dramatic scene here at Eden Prairie. As you can see, an unoccupied house is sitting on the edge of a sandy bluff on the verge of falling into a storm-created valley. What happened was a sewer pump house collapsed into the valley, causing a mudslide. It ruptured a main Twin Cities sewer line, and right now that ruptured sewer line is pouring about 57,000 gallons of raw sewage an hour into the Minnesota River Valley. Right now, officials are just standing by, waiting to see what happens with the house. We'll be on the scene throughout the afternoon and have the latest for you later tonight on News 11 at 5. John, Amy, back to you.
All righty, we're going to have a special edition. We'll tell you more about that in just a moment. While 10 inches of rain were recorded at the airport, some cities around recorded more. Reports of 14 inches came from Minnetonka. Ken Speak says folks there were amazed at the power of the water.
They said this washout sounded like a freight train, but there was reason for that here, because the washout had actually stopped a Sioux Line freight train. This morning, Tom Freehoff said he'd never had to dig a freight train out of mud before, not as long as he's worked with the Sioux Line. Up above, Kay Shima was sitting on her front steps. They had been underwater last night. The pool had flooded 6 inches deep into her home, and as she squished across her front room carpet, she knew she was on a waiting list for help. She figured she'd get her shot back around 6 o'clock tonight. Over west in Minnetonka, some of the 12 to 14 inches of rain that overwhelmed that city had washed out Stodola Road. Jeff Dolan was amazed.
Going through there sounded like a freight train coming through our backyard. I mean, it was real loud.
But nobody had the history of the place like Ted Anderson. Anderson had built his home along Minnetonka Boulevard in 1942. Said he'd had water in his front yard before, but never the lake that appeared overnight.
The most vicious electrical storm I've ever lived through, and I'm going on 80 years old.
Ted Anderson had to take his wife to the doctor today, and as he did, he figured that he was lucky. The water would go down, and it wouldn't be too long, and things would be getting back to normal. Ken Speak, News 11, Minnetonka.
So, to recap the situation of this superstorm at this hour, the storm has put us under a state of emergency. The governor's office made that declaration just about an hour ago, as the record-shattering storm that's wreaked havoc in many areas is now causing massive cleanup problems.
There are 2 known storm-related deaths so far, and damage assessment has just begun. At least 300 homes have been damaged.
Many roads are still impassable. Power outages continue. Caution and patience in all situations, of course, being urged.
Of course, we're going to continue our comprehensive coverage of the summer superstorm.
We'll have updates throughout the afternoon as necessary. We'll be bringing you an expanded hour-and-a-half edition of News 11 at 5 with reports from all around the damaged areas. Until then, have a safe and a dry afternoon.
Thanks for joining us.